And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about each quarterback and what a win for them would mean um, on Sunday. So, obviously, um, you know, a couple of these guys are playing in their first championship games. Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes, have played in championship games before. Jared Goff now with a new team. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, his sixth consecutive AFC Championship game appearance, first time being on the road. But yeah, I mean, on Sunday, this is. I mean, it's bigger for. I mean, for Mahomes, I mean, he's got 2 rings already. This is again his sixth consecutive, championship game appearance. So, for the other quarterbacks, it's bigger. So I'll actually start with the NFC quarterbacks. So Jared Goff, obviously, back in the 2018-2019 season, he made it to the championship game with the Rams. They beat the Saints. That was, that game was insane. And, obviously at the end, they had the no call on that pass interference. Although, the Saints got the ball in overtime and Breeze threw a pick. Rams got the ball back. Zerline kicked the game-winning field goal, and they went to the Super Bowl. And then, obviously, they played in one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever watched just because of how boring it was. But anyways, so yeah, it's been a while since Jared Goff has gotten back to this point. And now he's there with a new team. And this would be huge for him because, again, like, you beat the Rams – earlier in the playoffs, the team that traded you. And obviously, Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl for the Rams. So for Jared Goff, this would be huge for him to get a win here on the road against the number 1 seed in the 49ers, a team that he's played a lot over the course of his career being with the Rams. And, the 49ers have given him some problems. But, a win here and you get to the Super Bowl and you're doing it for the Detroit Lions and they have never been to a Super Bowl. They've never won a Super Bowl. To get to that point, and even get a Super Bowl win for this city would be unbelievable. And it would help him out too. But I mean, I think, the fact that the Lions, hosted back-to-back playoff games, they won a playoff game for the first time in 30 plus years. I mean, what Jared Goff has been able to do for that city and the kind of culture that the Lions are building over there with Dan Campbell, of course, as the head coach, and I've talked about that so many times. It's unbelievable. And, him getting the Lions to the Super Bowl, that would really help his legacy. I mean, losing here, of course, against the number 1 seed in the 49ers, yeah, it would stink. But the fact that, again, the Lions have made it this far and they continue to improve year by year. I mean, these past 2 years now, they are really, showing that they are a top team in the NFC. Although, yeah, they've been inconsistent at times. But you know what? In the playoffs, Jared Goff's been solid in these playoffs. And I'm going to be honest, I think that continues on Sunday. I think he's going to have a good game. And I don't know why I thought the weather wasn't going to be good. I guess maybe it was early in the week they were saying that, but it's supposed to be it's supposed to clear up. So that's good for both quarterbacks in this game. So then the other quarterback that he will be going up against is Brock Purdy. And this would be a great story, him getting to the Super Bowl, making it to back-to-back NFC Championship games. Obviously, last year didn't go as planned because he got hurt on the first drive against the Eagles, and they had to throw him back out there to just kind of throw dump-offs because he just couldn't throw. But the Brock Purdy story is another great story too, just because, again, was the last pick in the draft, wasn't really expected to do anything last year because you had Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and then of course Trey Lance gets hurt, so then Garoppolo has to step in, then Garoppolo gets hurt, and then now it's up to Purdy, and and Purdy played well, got them to the playoffs. And, of course, again, the season didn't end the way they wanted it to. But, they come back next year. Purdy plays like an MVP candidate. They did have a little bit of a rough stretch. But, again, they were able to figure it out, get guys healthy. And now they are back in the championship game once again. and they will be hosting it this time against the Detroit Lions. And Purdy's been getting some criticism because of the Avengers cast that he has, which I say that in quotes, but yeah, it is an Avengers cast because you got Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the best, if not the best running back in the game. You got Deebo Samuel, who's top 10 receiver. And then of course you have George Kittle, top 3 tight end when he's healthy, and then you have Brandon Ayuk as well. And of course Trent Williams at left tackle. He's got an incredible supporting cast. But like I've said, I don't think he's top tier level quarterback, but I think that he's done the best out of the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has had to work with since he's become the head coach of the 49ers. Now again, they got Christian McCaffrey last year, and Garoppolo did well with him in the limited time that he played with him. But I don't know. I just feel like with Purdy, they look like a different offense. And Purdy, he makes good throws. You still got to make the throws, and he does make them. Now, there's some bad throws in there as well. But I think, winning this game here, I think if Purdy goes out and plays really well, I mean, even if Deebo Samuel doesn't play in this game and Purdy goes out there and plays really well, I mean, that's going to help him because you could say to the Brock Purdy doubters, like, hey, look, he did well without Deebo Samuel. But then they'll probably say, well, he still had McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk. But still, the offense was different without Deebo Samuel. They went on that losing streak. So I think just also it'd be a great story, him getting to the Super Bowl, just because, again, was the last pick in the draft. I think a win on Sunday would be huge. And also, again, coming off of a performance where, the Niners' offense wasn't great. Green Bay looked like the better team. Green Bay outplayed him, for most of that game. Pretty much the whole game. For Purdy to come out and play really well here on Sunday, that would be big. And, to get the Niners back to the Super Bowl, to be a part of that, would be huge because the Niners back in 2019. I mean, you remember George Kittle saying, "I will be back here." And it's been a couple of years since then. 2020 was kind of a rough year for them because they got ravaged by injuries. But they've made it to the NFC Championship game now. 3 consecutive seasons. 2021 obviously was with Garoppolo, and then last year, of course, again they made it with Purdy, but he got hurt. But they had McCaffrey for it. They didn't have McCaffrey in 2021, so we'll see. But this would be huge for the Niners, and particularly for Purdy. If they're able to get this win on Sunday. So then we go to the AFC side. Now, obviously, we'll talk about Patrick Mahomes first. Like I said, I mean, even though we did that already. Again, he's going into his 6th consecutive AFC Championship game, first time on the road, playing against the number 1 seed in the Ravens. Again, Patrick Mahomes' legacy has kind of already been, cemented, because, again, if he retired right now on the spot, like he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, with what he's been able to do his first 6 seasons, MVPs, Super Bowl rings, so a loss here doesn't, hurt his legacy, but it would really enhance it. And again, like I talked about this week, a Super Bowl win here for the Chiefs would solidify them as a dynasty. It would. So that's really what this means for Patrick Mahomes and for the Chiefs. But this is a bigger game for Lamar Jackson. Because, I'm one of those people that criticized him, and I talked about this, coming back from big deficits when they're trailing and, not being able to beat the Chiefs. Well, he did that. It's been a little bit because they're going to be meeting for the first time in a couple of years now. But it's been a little bit. But he did do that. And I think, a win here to beat the Chiefs in a big spot in the AFC Championship game, that goes a long way. Because, again, not a lot of people have done that. There's only been two quarterbacks. Sorry, my hand was cut off. But, yeah, so there's only been 2 quarterbacks that have been able to do that. And that is Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. If Lamar Jackson is able to defeat Patrick Mahomes, he's a part of that elite class. And if he gets to a Super Bowl and he wins one, I mean, what are the Lamar haters going to say now? Because you want to talk about, haters and doubters. They've been there for Lamar Jackson. because, with Lamar Jackson, struggling as a passer, again, like I said, not a quarterback that can overcome being down in the game, and not being able to beat the Chiefs. If you could do that here in this spot, again, that'll go a long way. And especially because he said when he got drafted, because I watched that clip recently, he said it when Deion Sanders was interviewing him, that he guarantees that he will win a Super Bowl for the Ravens. And if he goes and does that, he shouldn't have any doubters. And he could very well win the MVP this year too. So I would say, like, when it comes to these 4 quarterbacks, I mean, this is big for everybody not named Patrick Mahomes. I mean, again, this only just enhances Patrick Mahomes' legacy. And again, they win the Super Bowl, that solidifies them as a dynasty. For these other guys, they got something to each of them do have something to prove. But more so the other 3. Lamar Jackson getting a win over the defending champs, over the team that's just kind of controlled the AFC the last 6 years since Mahomes became the starter. If Lamar Jackson's able to do that, beat Patrick Mahomes and go on to play in the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, that's huge for his legacy. And then you got the 2 quarterbacks. Jared Goff, he gets traded. Detroit was a bad team his first season, but now, they are 1 game away from a Super Bowl. You got Brock Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft. He's trying to prove something. It's, those guys have more to prove than Patrick Mahomes, but, each of them do have something to prove in their own right. So we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think, about what you think a win would mean for each of these quarterbacks. So yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. So now we're actually going to get into the games when we come back from our second break of the show. So we'll get into the NFC Championship game when we come back. But before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then preview the NFC Championship game between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.